If you find yourself rereading the whole table 3 times for every question in QR, you are bleeding time. I'm going to teach you the simple scoping and scanning process so you know exactly where to find the numbers you need to answer the questions. My name is Farhan, I'm a junior doctor and I've helped over 100 students get into medicine and dentistry across Australia. And today, you're going to learn to know what to look for in a QR stem so that you can scan the question for keywords and match those keywords to the numbers you need, with the end goal of reducing those dead-end calculations you might find yourself doing a bunch of times in QR. So, in terms of the steps that we know so far, we know that when it comes to your QR question or a STEM, that we should decide very quickly whether or not we do the question or skip the question. If you don't already know that, then watch my video on skipping strategies. We know that you shouldn't rush the comprehension and that you need to know what to actually calculate first. And if you don't know that, then watch my video on question comprehension. We know that eventually you need to use the formulas and calculate quickly. That's basically what the rest of the videos on this channel are about. But there is a missing step in between, which is knowing what numbers to use. So when it comes to the roadmap of approach for basically any quantitative reasoning question, this is what it can look like. You first of all decide whether or not you want to do it quickly, and then these are the steps that we're going to go through today. Scoping in general, asking yourself, what is this question about? What is this table about? Orienting yourself with the axes, what is the table telling me? And then looking for the fine print or the text that they have in the stem. And asking yourself, are there any traps for me to fall into? And then and only then do we go into the steps of question and calculation. So our focus today will be on the STEM part of this. So if we remember back to the stages of QR where there's comprehension and calculation, then we know that one of the steps is knowing what numbers to use. So let's go through exactly that. So when it comes to identifying the key variables, there's 2 steps. Number 1 is scoping, which is looking for key pieces of information within the STEM itself, and scanning, that is reading the question and picking out the numbers that you need to actually answer the question. So let's go through scoping to begin with. Let's just say we've got a question up in front of us. What do I actually think about when I first look at a question? So we break it down, the STEM part, into 3 steps. What kind of information is it? The axis orientation, and then the fine print. So what kind of information is this? So at a broad level, it's a question telling me about ordering badges. We've got the number of badges and the price per badge. Cool. Now, I'm going to orient myself with the axes. So over here, I can see there's different types of badges and there's different numbers of badges. And then in the table itself is a different price associated with whatever bracket that I'm interested in. And we always read for the fine print. You can see here, VAT is charged at 20% of the total order. And that's going to change absolutely everything when it comes to the answer that we end up giving. So that's our scoping stage. Next is scanning, which is reading the question and picking out what numbers to look for. Now, when it comes to this stage, you'll realize just how effective scoping is because it makes scanning so much easier. Now that I know what this table is all about, then when I start scanning, I know exactly where to look. For example, Marcus orders 350. So because of the number 350, I know my attention is going to be in this column, small enamel badges. So I know I'm looking at the small enamel badge row. So I'm going to have to end up using this number in one way or another. The total cost to the nearest pound, including VAT, which is the fine print, is what? And then so we pop all of these into our calculation. We end up getting our answer of 315. So our answer becomes C. Do you see how much quicker it makes this whole scanning process once you actually know what you're looking at? Scoping is mandatory when it comes to answering these questions quickly and with accuracy. Let's go through another one, right? This one might be a bit harder. This is a very confusing looking table in front of us here. Nevertheless, let's give it a shot. So I want you to scope it. What is this question about? What are the axes telling you? The patient actually has the disease, yes or no? And this is the negative and positive result of the screening test. So there's a test that people go through. It says they think they might not have the disease. It thinks they might have the disease, but this is like the actual, yes, they have it, no, they don't. And there's method X and Y in terms of screening. So 2 different methods at that. Cool. So now that we've understood what's going on here, there's no fine print, let's go and scan. So for every 1,000 people, Right, so we know the number 1000 is going to be used at some point. It's not actually in the table anywhere, but I'm just highlighting it because we know it's going to be in our calculation. So for every 1000 people, method Y identifies, so I'm looking at method Y's, identifies as being likely to have the disease. Likely to have the disease means the screening test returned positive. How many would you expect to actually have the disease? So patients have disease, yes, that's the actually have the disease. So we know that we have to use the number 1000 and basically the intersect of all of these boxes. So this actually just ends up being 1000 times 0.68, giving us 680. Our answer is B. So on the surface of things, even though this might look confusing, to a degree it is, the whole point of this question is how quickly can you recognize where to look in the table? And the better you scope and the better you scan, the easier this is going to be. Let's go through one more. So pause the video now and have a go at this yourself. All right, so let's go through this together now. Now, some of you guys might have read this bit at the top and realized, well, it's actually not telling us all that much that we don't already see in the table itself. And you'd be right, to be honest, but you'd always want to be in a position where there's no fine print and you've made sure of that, than be in a position where you've just skipped all of this and there is some fine print and now you're about to calculate something wrong because you haven't read that. So let's go through it together. By how much did the population, so here's exactly where the population statistics are, of the Bay increase between 1985 and 1995. So even though we don't have the numbers directly in front of us, we do have the information in front of us to be able to calculate whatever numbers we need. So the total number of households in thousands is 38, and the average household size by number of people is 6.2. So if we multiply the households by the average amount of people in each house, then we get the population. So we end up getting 38,000 times 6.2 minus 48,000 times 5.1, giving us our answer of 9,200. Our answer is B. So this hopefully has shown you just how impactful it can be to have a look at the STEM properly first, because then when it comes to the question and the calculation phase, it makes your life so much easier. It's a skill that you just have to build when it comes to quantitative reasoning. Otherwise, we're just putting ourselves on the back foot. Now, if you found this helpful, then this is just one of the many frameworks that I've got for the UCAT. If you want every single one of my frameworks in one place, then just click the first link in the description below. Otherwise, here are a couple of traps that students fall into when it comes to identifying key variables. Number one is rereading the whole STEM multiple times because you never scoped where the information lives to begin with. Number two is ignoring the fine print that change how the numbers should be used. And three is just grabbing the first numbers you see, which ends up resulting in dead-end calculations. So here's your do's and don'ts. Do scope every new STEM. Do look at the key words and the key numbers in the question, and do use those keywords as a map to choose where to look in the table. Don't start from the numbers, start from the question. Don't assume all numbers in the table are relevant, and don't ignore tiny bits of text around the data because that could drastically change how you end up doing your calculation. So here's your next step. In your next QR practice session, spend at least 15 seconds scoping each new STEM. Then you scan for the keywords and the key numbers inside the question. This might feel slower for you initially, but it does ingrain good habits. The quicker you get at this skill, the better you'll end up going. But it is just one of those steps back that we need to take in order to go 2 steps forward. Now, if you don't already have a question platform to be practicing quantitative reasoning on, then you can use the code Farhan for 10% off med entry.